Hey everybody, Steph with you guys. I am here for my weekly cooking demo. Let me know if you can't see that well because I can move the camera closer. Guys, thank you. We are focusing on Asian cuisine this month in my VIP group. I'm super excited to be making Asian dumplings. Let me know if you have ever had Asian dumplings. I personally have not. This is fun. I'm having fun traveling around the world with all of you this month as we explore the Asian culture, Asian foods, and so forth. So Asian dumplings, what I'm learning so far from this process is I did a lot of prep work. It does require a little prep work. So the filling is already pre-made and it's been sitting for an hour marinating. We have ground chicken, green onion, beans, carrots, soy sauce, grated ginger, oil, and an egg. Normally dumplings are made with ground pork. My family's not big fans of pork, so we use ground chicken instead. The reason you want to use pork is because you need something with a higher fat content. So I use the chicken, which is a little bit leaner than pork. Turkey is the leanest of the white meats, so it's like the middle ground. If you want to, you could probably use like a beef if you are more of a red meat person, but pork is a typical dumpling choice of protein. And then I also pre-made the dough, so I've been working on this dough for the last hour. Right now I am forming the dumpling dough. It's just water and flour, super easy to make, but it's a process because you mix it up, you have to knead the dough. I knead it for probably 10-15 minutes until it's nice and soft, and then you roll it out you cut it into little pieces, then you roll it into balls, and now we're rolling it out to form our dumplings. So we're at that point where we're getting them ready to be filled. So I have my piece of dough here. Let me know if you can't see as I use my rolling pin. This is a Pampered Chef rolling pin. It's a tapered rolling pin. And with dumpling dough, you want the center of the dough, thickest part of the dough. So typically when you roll out dough, you want it even all across the whole piece of dough, right? You want the same thickness across the whole dough. For dumplings, you want the middle part a little bit thicker because that's where the filling is going to sit in. So one of the ways that you can easily do this to make sure that center is nice and thicker than your typical pieces of dough is you can use a tapered rolling pin like this one, where it's thinner on the edges, fatter in the middle, and then tapers off again. That's why it's called tapered, because it's a different thickness all across the whole pin. I don't know if you guys can see the difference in the width, but I'm using the ends to get the dough to where I need it to be. You can use your palm to flatten the dough, but you are just using that end around the center to flatten it out a little bit and give it more of a uniform shape. With dumpling dough, you really want it to be symmetrical, right? Because you're folding it in half essentially with once that filling is put in. So we're going to first get that symmetrical shape, or as close as you can. You're making homemade dough. It's not going to be perfect, and that is a-okay, I promise you. Honestly, all that matters is that it tastes good, right? That's the goal. So you can see how I'm using that smaller end in the center and just pushing on the outer side of the dough, right? And then we're going to turn it and do the same thing all around a piece of dough. This specific recipe, and you can look online, there's a bunch of different recipes for dumplings, is that there's a lot of dough here, but not that much filling. So we're going to use what we have for filling, and then if we have to, we'll make more dough, dumpling dough. But I'm not going to use up all the dough because this is good dough. We can use this for another recipe later on. So we're semi-symmetrical here. And if you feel the dough, when you're rolling it out, when you feel it, you should be able to feel a difference between the center and the edges of the dough. It should be a lot thinner than the middle of the dough, right? So this is how you make Chinese dumplings. This is a recipe that requires a lot of repetition and patience. You can make this ahead of time. You can mix the filling ahead of time. You can make the dough ahead of time, and then you can just all put it together. This dough would probably be really nicely frozen as well. You could probably freeze the dough if you have extra. We're using that tapered method where we're rolling out the edges and leaving the center intact. And what's going to happen is when you put that the reason you want that center piece a little bit thicker is because when you put the filling in, it's going to put weight in there. And you want that extra weight to be able to hold the filling, right? When you're ready to make this dough, and I can talk about this a little bit more when we get to that point, but there's three main methods of making dumplings. You can pan fry them, you can steam them, or you can bake them. We are going to do the pan fried method. It's easiest for the demonstrations. But the pan fry actually does combine a little bit of the steaming process with it, so we'll see a little bit of both of those. Again, when you're rolling this dough out, you want a semi-symmetrical shape. So you could even use your palm before you use the rolling pin to shape the dough, right? As you push it down, flatten it out a little bit. You can use a regular rolling pin as well. You don't have to have a tapered one. It just so happened that this is the one rolling pin I have, and this is what I am using. If you wanted to, and I tried this already, but it didn't work out, but I'm sure somebody could figure it out, is if you have a burger press or something that is small, round, in a circular shape, or even like the bottom of a bowl, you can use that to help flatten it a little bit. The problem with this one is that it puts a little dent in the dough, but that's okay. So there's other ways you can do this without using a rolling pin. You also just use your hands if you wanted to. Now keep in mind you want it big enough that so that when you put the filling in, you can wrap it around the filling, and I'll show you that in a moment. And you can close the ends together, the sides and the tops together. Let me know if you've ever had dumplings, whether you order takeout from a Chinese restaurant, or if you've ever made them. I would love to hear your experiences. Put it in the comments. As I put these in my dish before I fill them, I'm stacking them not directly on top of each other, because if I stack them directly on top of each other, what's going to happen is they're going to start sticking, and then it's going to be a pain to grab them. So you want to offset them a little bit so they're not completely on top of each other. Don't ask me how many pieces I have here, because I don't know. Honestly, I did not count them. I should have. But I know there's a lot here. This is only just half of the dough that this recipe. Again, all you can use if you don't want to make the dough from scratch, which I find is a lot more affordable. It's healthier. It's cheaper. You can buy wonton wrappers and use the wonton wrappers, especially if you struggle with perfection. I just didn't think it was cost effective to buy the wonton wrappers when I had a huge bag of flour in order. For me, it was cheaper to make it at home, make the dough. It's not hard to make, it's just very time consuming, very repetitive. If you have time on the weekend, you can make everything ahead of time. You can freeze the dough. You can probably freeze the filling as well. Just pull it out and then make it the day of. You can even make the dumplings ahead of time and just fry them up whenever you're ready. A good meal prep idea is to make some Asian dumplings, freeze them, and then keep them up whenever you're ready. A lot of your Asian dishes aren't necessarily meant for leftover foods, but I feel like dumplings are one of those foods that you could easily freeze and reheat. Your wonton wrappers are typically, the ones that I found that I was looking at, are typically squarish shapes. Your dumplings are like half moon shaped. So there was a little bit of a difference there as well. The store-bought versus the homemade dumplings. You guys have any questions for me? Hey Sharon, I am doing well. Thanks for asking. I am making Asian dumplings, or Chinese dumplings. So I'm working on the dough right now, rolling the dough out. We're keeping the center thicker and then thinner on the edges because the filling is going to go in the center. The trick to making homemade dough is keeping it symmetrical. With this piece, I'm not sure what's going on. So we're going to do our best here. The reason we want the center thicker is because the filling is going to go in the center, so you need like that extra dough to hold in the filling. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. I appreciate the support. If you want more Asian inspired meals, you guys can join my VIP group. I do have a promo going on, Pay Your Age Mystery Box. If you're interested, just comment your age and I will send you a message with more information. I am using mostly Pamper Chef products. I talked about the tapered rolling pin. I have a sheet pan here. I have the bench scraper, I believe that's what it's called. And I'm using our anniversary, one of our pieces from our anniversary dishware collection as my dish to hold all my rolled out dough. And I have a burger press out that I'm occasionally using as well. Alright, so we have 2 more pieces after this one, and then we're going to fill these up and fry them in the pan. You can see these come into action. Super stoked. Typically, dumplings are like an appetizer in Asian cuisine, but we're going to use these as basically our main entree. I do have some leftover ground chicken that I'm going to turn into chicken patties for my kids. My kids probably won't touch these. So our last piece of dough here for now, and if we need to make more dumpling dough, have the other half here. My goal was to get at least a dozen, and I believe we did that. There's about 6 of us that I feed. 3 adults, 3 kiddos. And I don't think the kids are going to eat them, so that leaves 3 for the adults. This is a pretty decent, affordable meal. Ground chicken was probably the most expensive ingredient in this recipe. So this is what we got so far from our dumpling dough. I think we definitely got some in there. I'm going to go ahead and grab my filling and talk a little bit about. I use ground chicken because we're not big pork eaters, but typically in Asian cuisine they use ground pork. I also have shredded carrots, green onion, ground ginger, grated ginger, soy sauce, there's egg, some vegetable oil, and I added some bean sprouts as well because I have those available. So what I'm doing, whenever you're playing with a filling, I'm actually going to get my pan ready. So we're going to use the weeknight skillet from Pamper Chef. Throw in some oil and get that oil heated up. And spread that oil around. That way as we fill them, we can put them straight into the pan. I'm using our smallest cookie scoop from Pamper Chef. This is a great way. So anytime you're doing something with filling, whether it's a pierogi or something along those lines, use a cookie scoop, because then you get the most amount. And you want to do this in your hands. That's the best way to make sure you get the filling in the center. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, very carefully, you're going to fold it over and bring the edges together. If it spills out the side, you know you have too much in there. So we have to be mindful of that. This is a learn as you go. And you're going to simply pinch the sides together. You just want to use 2 fingers, 1 on each side of the dough, and you're basically going to seal the edges. This is why that symmetrical shape matters, because you want those to be even. Yeah, it spills out the side, just scoop it out, squeeze it in there. If you want to go even fancier, do like you would with a pie crust, right? 2 fingers on one side, push. You guys see that? Push. 2 fingers on one side, 1 finger on the other side, and just push. And then you get a little, you want to make sure your ends are definitely sealed because you don't want it to leak out. This one's not sealing very well. I'm trying to pull this one over. Oh, now we're pushing it out on the other side. I think we gotta put less filling in the next one. The more you do this, you'll get better at it. You can fold the edges over if you wanted to. And then we're going to go ahead and throw those in the pan. And I'm doing our next one. So obviously the scoop might be a tad too much. This is why they are considered an appetizer. Scrape half of that off. And try and keep the filling in the center. This is a bit of a messy meal to make. You guys get the general idea, right? These are not, we're going to do a little bit less. Hopefully you guys get the idea of what this is supposed to look like. And you guys can easily serve these with rice or noodles, or just have them make a fun dipping sauce with some soy sauce, vinegar, and have fun with it. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna keep working on this. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your support, and we're gonna enjoy our dumplings. Have a great one, everyone.